Welcome back to the Pit Wizard Spook Shack, and to day one of our diabolically delicious 7-course Halloween banquet. And we're going to be commencing this fiendish feast in the traditional manner with the bread course, but not just any bread course, of course. We are going to be starting this mortifying meal with Devil's Farts bread. Yes, we are going to be cooking up some Devil's Farts bread, aka Pumpernickel. And Pumpernickel is a German bread, and the translation in German literally means the farts of the devil. And it gets its somewhat unsavoury name from its reputation of causing what you might refer to as a rather undesirable case of the clown coughs, if consumed too much. However, it is Halloween, it is the start of the holiday season. Consuming too much is very much what these seasons tend to be all about, so who am I to tell you how much you should be consuming? But don't come crying to me if your belly ends up griping with a case of the Heine hiccups. So, to make this terrifyingly tasty bread, I need to refer to my book of arcane recipe wisdom. When you embark upon this recipe, let's hope you don't get the case of the cheek squeaks. First of all, you are going to take 350 grams of all-purpose flour. You're going to sieve that together with 280 grams of dark rye flour. To that, you're going to add 2 tablespoons of dark cocoa powder, unsweetened. 5 teaspoons of instant yeast. 1 tablespoon of granulated sugar. 3/4 of a tablespoon of salt. And then you just want to sift all of those ingredients together until you've got a kind of greyish, musty looking kind of dust, reminiscent of what might collect in 1,000-year-old tombs. In another bowl, you're then going to add your wet ingredients, which will be 340 millilitres of warm water, 140 grams of molasses, and if you cannot find molasses, you can use treacle. 2 tablespoons of a neutrally flavoured oil. You can use vegetable oil if you want to. You could use a seed oil if that's what you have. I went for a groundnut oil. All of these will work as long as they are neutrally flavoured. With those wet ingredients combined separately from the dry ingredients, you are then going to add your wet ingredients into your dry ingredients. Mix them until a dough is formed. You then want to flour your surface, put your dough on that surface and knead it for about 10 minutes or until the dough starts to look shiny, stops sticking to the surface, and is quite elastic in texture. And if you do find your dough is excessively sticking whilst you're trying to knead it, just keep throwing down a little bit more flour. You're going to be fine. Once your grundle rumble dough is made, pop it into a clean oiled bowl, cover it, and put it in a warm place. Now, conventional wisdom says to leave it for an hour and a half. Practice tells me you can leave it for 7, 8, 9 hours, and that's probably better, because I found after an hour and a half, not much difference had happened. However, trying to find a warm place in the Shires of England in the middle of autumn is pretty much a hide into nothing. So what I did was took an even larger bowl than the one that was holding my dough. I filled that partially with warm water. I put my bowl of dough into that bowl of warm water, making sure none went over the sides, of course. And then I covered it so it had a warm environment. And I periodically changed the water to make sure it stayed warm every hour or so. So if you can't find anywhere warm, you don't have an airing cupboard, that is the option for you. Once it's rested and risen, get your dough back out onto a floured surface and punch it back. And at this stage, you're going to want to separate it into two roughly equal pieces. And you're going to want to form it into a kind of oblique triangle. It's going to be quite hard to explain verbally, so visual should be on the screen now. And with your triangle, take the smallest end and roll that towards the larger end, tuck the sides in, and then pop it into a greased loaf tin. Then take your second triangle of dough and repeat the process. Cover your loaf tins, put them somewhere warm, and leave them to rise again. Now again, conventional wisdom led me astray. 45 minutes apparently was the length of time needed. 45 minutes and absolutely nothing had happened. So again, I left these for about 5-6 hours. Again, I used the warm water technique where I popped the vessel holding the dough into a larger vessel containing warm water. I recommend you do this if you can't find anywhere warm enough, but obviously don't make the water too warm, because you might kill the yeast. And once your dough has risen for a second time, it's time to get your buttock wobbler bread in for baking. And that means setting your oven to 375 degrees, making sure it's preheated, and placing your tushy tickler dough in to cook for about 30 minutes if you're using a fan oven, maybe 40 minutes if you're using a conventional oven. The mouse on a motorcycle bread is cooked and ready when tapping it makes a hollow sound. Or when an instant read thermometer reads 185 to 205 degrees Fahrenheit. So, with your cornhole clapper bread made, it's then time to put it on a rack and let it rest until it's completely cooled down. In the meantime, you can be making your accompaniment for this bread, and I like to pair it with some spiced apple pie butter. Make your spiced apple pie butter. You will need 230 grams of salted butter, 2.5 tablespoons of spiced apple pie mix. If you don't have spiced apple pie mix or you want to know how to make your own, our recipe is on Substack. And to that, you're going to add 2.5 tablespoons of runny honey. Mix all that well together until it's completely incorporated. Wrap in sarin wrap or cling film, whatever you refer to it as. Tie it up and refrigerate it until you're ready to serve your bull snorts bread. And after an hour or two of resting, your Beelzebub's Botty Bob bread will be nicely cooled and ready to serve to your infernal guests. And I think that looks pretty diabolically delicious. Going in for a slice. First, we're going to try it without the butter. Pure, unadulterated turtle burp bread. Happy Halloween. It's delicious. It's heavy in flavour, but light in texture. There's almost a rich kind of fruitiness coming from that molasses in there, and it's really nicely rounded out by that salt. Let's try some with our spiced apple pie butter. For those who are curious, this is what our spiced apple pie butter looks like. I rather foolishly forgot to take it out of the fridge, so I had to microwave it, hence it's a bit more liquid than I would have liked. But that gives you an idea of the kind of colour you can expect. And actually, I've got a little bit of my trunk bunk bread left here, so let's butter this guy up. Happy Halloween. And perhaps unsurprisingly, I do prefer it with that butter. The spicing really works with that fruitiness I alluded to earlier, and butter just makes everything better. Spiced apple pie butter makes everything diabolically delicious. So that's the starter of our Halloween feast. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell ready for tomorrow's starter course. And if you do make this panty puffer bread course, don't come crying to us at the shack. You get a case of the silly cider. Tie it up and refrigerate it until you're ready to tie it up and refrigerate it until tie it up and refrigerate it until you're ready to serve your bull snorts bread.